Thank you, listeners, for joining us. It gives us a great pleasure to welcome in studio today our local lawmaker, Assemblyman Bert Gurr, District 33, in his second term in service to rural Nevada. And in fact, Bert, before we get much further, we should let although you've already announced, but we'll let you announce if you're running again for this seat.
I absolutely am. Excuse me. Seems like every time I get on there, I lose my voice. But
you've got lots of water, and if you have a lozenge, I've had this little tickle in my throat it's going around.
Yeah, it's been fighting it for 2.5 weeks, so yeah, or maybe 3 now.
Yeah,
and it just comes and goes. But yes, I'm running again. Very, very happy to run in this district one more time. There's a lot left to be done. And a lot of issues up there that I've come up to speed with in 2 sessions and 3 special sessions. So yes, I am running again.
Thank you, Bert. And Bert, of course, will be filing along with other hopefuls, whether or not for this seat, but certainly we have a whole slate of Nevada offices, local, city, and county, and filing opens on Monday, March 2nd, so it's right around the corner. First of all, and then we're going to talk about some things from the recent special session, but all the buzz right now, Bert, is about CD2 with Mark Amadei's sudden departure. Well, he'll fill out his term, but he has announced he is retiring after 15 years as our congressman. What's happening?
I think you'd have to ask Mark more than me, but from where I sit, 15 years back in that place, plenty. He's done a great job for Nevada. He's finally in a position where he can try to get things done. But again, there's stuff that happens back there that nobody in their right mind ought to be back there. It's just crazy. We were there in September, and it's nuts. I mean, I was there. I'll bet I've been there 15 times over the years with the realtors, and it's getting crazier and crazier and crazier as we see with the policies that come out.
So it really left the GOP in a lurch, Bert? I mean, would you agree? Because now everybody's wondering who's it going to be? Who's the GOP going to endorse?
There's going to be a lot of discussion about that. There's names being thrown out. And some of those names have thrown themselves out to get out of the race already. Laxalt's not going to run. Tarkington says he's not going to run. We'll know as soon as filing's over. But, it seems like there's 3 or 4 people that could get in the race, but to speculate who's going to do it exactly at this point, Tony Grady's been discussed, Sam Brown's been discussed. It depends, and one of the unique things about that job is that you don't have to live in the district. You just have to be a resident of the state of Nevada. I find that really, really distressing to me. Why would you elect? Andy Matthews was another one that just came to mind because he lives in southern Nevada. Andy would be a good one, but they don't live in the district. How do you even know? And with a district as big as the one I represent, it is very difficult to even come close to being able to represent them fully.
Well, I was startled. In fact, there's a great article, listeners, in the Nevada Independent, which details some of these considerations that Bert's already suggested, but that this district it covers something like 99% of the land mass in Nevada, which is pretty concurrent with your position as well.
Pretty much. I think it might have more than mine, but it's huge. It's huge. The population base is not that huge. I mean, it equals the other districts, which is the way this works. But, how do you get a town of Caliente represented well in either the state or the federal government, or Panaca or Pioche, or Eureka even? I mean, it's difficult for these folks to get around. And believe me, I know now after 2 sessions how tough this job can be on your physical ability, your financial ability, your ability to drive for 10 hours in a row, those kinds of things.
Bert Gurr is our guest today. He's our local lawmaker, Assemblyman in District 33, and he is seeking re-election. If successful, it will be his 3rd term. So as you mentioned, Sam Brown, from what we understand from the Nevada Independent article, several GOP strategists say that Sam Brown is the White House pick, and that basically if Trump endorses someone, that will be our next representative. I'm not sure if you'd heard that or not.
Well, I've not heard that the White House has endorsed him yet. but that's very possible.
I think the only one we haven't heard from is Sam Brown, right? If he isn't.
Everybody has an opinion.
Exactly.
You know?
The one that really stood out for me, which I was just going to see what your reaction, J.J. Goygachia.
He wouldn't run for state senator, so I doubt that he'd want to be back east.
In fact, that's what he said.
Yeah, that would be my opinion, and I haven't talked to him about it, but that would be my opinion.
But isn't that interesting? I mean, he is the Department of Agriculture director. He told the Nevada Independent that the cycle isn't right, so it's not as though he's not ruling out leadership in the future, but his priority was family. He has 2 high school daughters, and he wants to continue to see projects through at the Department of Agriculture. So.
Yeah, I think I like JJ a lot, and he very, very strong integrity, very strong values.
He's done a lot.
He would be great back there for us. But the sacrifices, you got to really weigh those. They're pretty heavy, and maybe down the road he'd run. But he's doing a really great job as in the head of the Department of Agriculture. Every time he comes in front of us in any committee, he's got his facts right. He's got everything there. He's doing a really wonderful job, and I'd hate to see him out of there while I'm still in office.
Right. And, of course, the apple doesn't fall far from the legislative tree with Pete Goygachia, retired senator, now regent for Nevada System of Higher Ed. Pete Goygachia, that's his dad. So,
yes.
Yeah. I don't know, Berta. Because I've been doing this for so long, I do really miss the days of, Dean Rhodes, people that would represent us in rural Nevada. They weren't just aligned with a party, I think.
No, and that's the sort of hard part about term limits. You get somebody good in there, and Pete could have maybe made one more session as a senator, and he would be like a cardinal, like Amadei is, if he stayed. He knew more about water and how it worked than anybody, including the state water engineer that is no longer there. And he would have been great to stay in there, but like Pete said, why? Just getting beat up, and when you're in the super minority like we were the first session I was there, and in just the minority part of that party, if you don't know how to work across the aisle, you're not going to get anything done. And sometimes they're receptive to what we've got to say, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do some of that. Consequently, I've got a couple bills passed.
And we can talk about those, obviously, with Bert Gurr, our local lawmaker. Some of the most recent accomplishments we could cite from the special session, and then talk about the things that you are working on, obviously, given if you are successful in the upcoming midterm, in the election in the fall.
Yeah. So what would you like to talk about out of the special?
Well, let's see. Are there some bills, is there legislation that jumps out for you that you're especially proud of? We know the governor signed the crime bill, and local law enforcement is happy about that, although they're anxiously awaiting some results.
That's a tough question for me to answer. Number one, I didn't want to be there. Number two, I think there was something like 14 different bills that came into play. And out of that, we had one committee each day, and you had to listen to all of that. So the crime bill was essential, and that's a good one, and I like that. That's a good bill. Everything else that came in front of us could have waited until we went back into session and gone through it. The film tax credit bill, thank God it died. It had no upside to the rest of the state of Nevada, and I'm not sure it even had an upside to Las Vegas, although they will tell you it did. And when they first came out with it in this iteration, because they've been doing it for several sessions, it was going to employ 60,000 people in Las Vegas. When it came actually out, it was 16,000. And they were going to have to train all of them, which translates into, if we want to get up and running, we're going to have to bring in the people from Southern California that are already doing it and have them train people in Nevada. So Nevada jobs, maybe to build it, but ultimately it was going to cost, and this is where it gets a little concerning to me, is that they were showing benefits to the state on one side of the ledger, and without consulting with the actual legislative budget folks. And then the legislative budget folks came into our caucus, and when it was all done, by 2031, we'd have been upside down the state of Nevada by I was going to say $35 billion. It just didn't make sense. So from that standpoint, and I will, in all transparency, I did vote for it in the special or in the regular session. But I traded that vote, which is hard to say, but I traded that vote to stop the Farm Workers' Bill of Rights bill, and it worked. It was the last bill on the board at 11:45, and the speaker wouldn't hear it. So, however that trade worked, it worked well.
And the farm workers bill, Bert, it was detrimental. Can you explain?
It had so many parts of it that a normal rancher in the state of Nevada wouldn't have been able to comply, and they had to have so many days off in a row, and you had to go out and pick them up out of the field. The sheep industry would have been just hammered with it.
Because they're in the foothills. I mean, they're in the hills.
They're in the mountains.
Yeah.
Where sometimes they're in there 3 weeks, and then the camp tender gets them out for a while, and some of them don't want to come out. But it was going to force a lot of different processes that weren't possible to do without totally restructuring your business and maybe closing your business as a rancher and farmer.
So do you think, I can remember not long ago, we sat here when you were a freshman, right, and pretty optimistic and voting on the stadium bill. Have things changed for you? Have you learned things that maybe you didn't know before? I
think the vote on the stadium bill is still a good one. I mean, being in the real estate business, whenever you can own the land and somebody else is going to do the improvements, it's a wonderful project. And it still looks like that's positive. $315 million to buy that corner down there. It belongs to the people of the state of Nevada right now, not to the A's. The A's will just be tenants on it. So it makes sense to me. If they don't perform all of the stuff they do, they get kicked off. It's pretty interesting. I like that bill. But transferable tax credits, which the film industry has, is a whole different game. Because for this, you can go in, you can do a deep dive on this and figure it all out. But let's say we gave Sony $95 million a year. Sony then goes to the Boyd Group and says, I have $95 million here. How about if you give me $80 million and you get those tax credits? So not only did we lose $15 million to start with, we lose it when it gets paid back. I mean, it's just a bad deal for the state of Nevada.
And for listeners' benefit, Assemblyman Bert Gurr he's a real estate professional. That's been your entire professional career. So you have an understanding of these issues, obviously. And we know this is not news, but the state is in dire need of revenue, even locally. School finances. Every place. County, city governments, declining revenue everywhere, Bert. And are you considering that?
I don't think it's as dire as everybody makes it out to be. Personally, I think we're down a little bit, but we're not down in a deep hole to dig out of. Now, some local governments are, and there's a myriad of reasons why they might be and why they might not be. I'm not sure about the Elko school district or any of the school districts, but I'm pretty sure White Pine County's got issues. They're in my district, and from what I'm seeing, they could have some major issues, and I am not part of that because that's not my job. But when they call me and ask for recommendations, I said, well, if you're in that much disarray, you might want to bring the state auditors in and see what's really going on. But over the 2 terms I've been in there, we've been fighting for a White Pine school. And with cooperation from a Democrat leader down there last session, we got the bond issue passed so they can start their school. But during that time frame, county and city government always complaining about not enough money. They're broke, they're this, they're that. Then I get told they had, first of all, $12 million in surplus funds or in ending fund balance. I've heard as high as $68 million. I'm far not even close to being a forensic accountant, so I have no clue what's right. I just talk to everybody down there that I can, and there's 2 or 3 camps, and they're all fighting, and we'll see what happens. But actually, statewide, we're down a little bit, but I think we're going to come back. I'm pretty positive of that. There's major projects that may bring in more stuff if they get, or more people and more income if it gets approved. So yeah, just keep looking forward.
So I'm really interested to know what you think about this proposal. I sat in when Alexis Hill visited Elko, and she is a declared candidate, a Democrat for governor, and she's a current county commissioner, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So her idea is this reset of property tax. So with your experience as a realtor, and tell us what you think about that.
Well, I think if you reset the property tax sale, most people won't qualify for the loans at the prices we're at today. And that's one that, property taxes are considered in the loan value. And so if you've got, let's say you have $1,000 payment, and on when you buy it, I've got $1,000 payment. My taxes are, let's say, $3,000 a year. So a portion of my monthly payment goes to taxes, and they take that into consideration. So I sell that house that I paid $200,000 for $400,000. It just doubled my taxes. If you reset
for the next buyer.
For the next buyer.
Right.
So that next buyer now has to qualify for that higher tax rate. Now, it's a little more complicated than, okay, when it sells, let's just reset it. On the surface, it sounds like a great idea to get more income into the counties, but underneath it, it's some pretty devastating processes for home ownership. And I think those things will be worked out because it is being talked about a lot. And I'm, at this stage, unless somebody can convince me differently, I'm not in favor of it. Now, we could look at the depreciation values and maybe look at how fast we're depreciating them and how a $12 million property downtown Las Vegas is paying less in taxes than a homeowner that just bought a $100,000 house or a $1 million house. There could be some balance there, but it's got to be reviewed and gone through a lot. Just to throw out, let's reset taxes, no.
We've had conversations, too, with Marissa Lostra. She's a city council person, Bert, obviously you know that, and she is interested. She's very active with the Realtors Association,
yes,
as I believe you are. So she's talked about the affordable housing issue and wanting to establish a more favorable atmosphere and planning, building, and zoning for modular housing. Do you think that would enhance our affordable housing issue?
It would be a component of it for sure, and I think that has to be done. But I think you could stop with that comment before you start saying manufactured housing.
I see.
I'm talking to, I don't work as much with it anymore, but developers trying to get houses in the ground, they can be as long as, in Elko, 6 to 8 months before they can start construction.
And what's holding that up?
Plan processing, city regulations, state regulations, all of that needs a review. Right now, if you want to build a house in Elko, you submit your plans to Elko. They send them out to have them reviewed. So they go to the reviewer, and let's say it's in Salt Lake. You've already had your engineers and everything done on it. They find something they don't like, they redline it, send it back. So then they've got a time frame inside the city ordinances to review that, give it to you, saying we're declining it for this. You redo that. They send it back, and it goes to a different plan reader, and they find something they don't like and send it back. So it can go on and on and on until some people just throw up their hands. I know there's one contractor who's really upset about it, and I don't know if he's even going to stick around. So, when you talk housing affordability or attainability, because that's the buzzword now, you got to look at where it starts, and it starts right here on the ground, here. And then if what we do here is caused by the state of Nevada or the federal government, we got to fix that. So there's a process in getting to it, and I think everybody who wants to see housing expand has to look at the process and how it starts here. All government's local, and all regulation is local. Now they say, well, we have to do this, we have to do that. Okay, but why? Let's cut through the red tape and the BS, and let's just go to making safe, affordable housing for people.
Bert Gurr is our local lawmaker and obviously a candidate and talking about the issues related to attainable housing here in the community, and I'm glad that you spoke to that issue. And I'm sure there'll be. I know that they revised the city building codes recently, Bert, and I'm not sure if those issues or concerns were directly reflected in the rezoning, or in the re.
Yeah, I'm sure they had to redo it because they changed the fire codes at the national level, and they changed different different codes. So they have to go through and fix it. I hear they're going to redo they're looking at land development codes, subdivision codes. I hear they're going to do that, but it's just a rumor to me right now.
Is that in the county or in the city?
I think it's in the city.
Okay.
The county isn't acting like they're going to do much. I mean, the county's pretty easy to work with. The city has been better over the last 5 years, but still, when you have people saying, I can't get a building permit, I can't go in the ground until this happens, and that happens, and that happens, it takes a long time. So from where I sit, and if I were still doing that kind of work in the city of Elko, I would be right at every one of those meetings talking to them, trying to figure out why we can't get rid of this regulation and that regulation. You don't ever want to unregulate safety and make sure that everybody can live in the house, habitable housing, make sure it all works that way. But you can get rid of some of the government red tape. You can get rid of some of the ridiculous regulations that are out there.
Bert, thank you for obviously commenting on an important local issue, again, the attainable housing. Just a reminder that among the various positions up, there are 2 city council and the position of mayor. So anyone who's interested, I do believe, Mayor Reese Keener is termed out, so he has already indicated he'll be stepping aside. And we do have Chip Stone, who has announced Tuesday he's seeking re-election. I do believe that the other position, Giovanni Puccinelli, he's also going to seek re-election to that position too. But these are at-large, nonpartisan seats, so anybody.
Yeah. This is on whether the person can perform or not whether or not they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And I think you ought to weigh that when you're looking at who runs for what.
Thank you, Bert. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of different issues today. We veered into some local topics, which I think is okay, because, as you mentioned, if there are problems close to home, I believe the same way you do. All politics, all government starts with local, what's happening here at home. So we said we would reflect on what's new as well, maybe some things that you're working on. We know that intrastate flight is still an issue. We have a commission in place. Bert, do you think there'll be? Well, let's talk about the bills. You've got 2 that you want to introduce, right? That you're already working on. Is that right?
Well, I've got several that are in the preliminary stages. One of them is, again, the Fairness in Women's Sports Bill, and that one got a little usurped by the lieutenant governor last time, by getting Senator Buck to introduce a bill in the Senate, and it got killed. Both of them just murdered. Now the governor's jumped on board with an initiative petition format to amend the Constitution. And that may be running into serious roadblocks too. But I'm still running my bill. I've kept my head down. I've kept quiet. I've not been involved in a bunch of the argument back and forth. This has nothing to do My bill has nothing to do with transgenderism or anything else. It just has to being fair. And that's all the bill's about. Now, I may add in, we're working on this. Did you know that cheerleading is not a recognized sport in the state of Nevada?
I didn't know that. They look like it's pretty strenuous, and they're exerting themselves. And there are both men and women that participate in cheerleading.
And it is for the cheerleaders to travel and everything else, parents pay for all that. So we're looking at how we get that into the the Nevada Interscholastic League as a legitimate sport, so that schools can help contribute to getting these kids back and forth, and their competitions outside. I mean, they do have just cheer competitions, so that could be part of that bill too.
And what about flag football? Isn't that interesting? That actually may be introduced to the NIAA. I think they're considering making that an official sport, flag football.
Hadn't heard that, but okay. And that could be co-ed.
Yep, and women do participate in that.
Yeah, I really think that if we could do this fairly, everybody has their lane to play in, and everybody can be comfortable and safe in it. I'm not saying that women can't beat each other up in sport. They can, and they do. I am saying that somebody my size shouldn't be allowed to compete against women your size in physical contact sports, or volleyball, where I can hit the ball 4 times harder than you can, or pick a sport where size and power makes a difference. There should be no, I mean, males are so much different. They've got bigger lung capacity, bigger hearts, bigger throats. I mean, it just doesn't make sense from any standpoint for competition in sport.
So I don't think that doesn't beg the question. You just answered it, because critics say, that it's a solution looking for a problem, because we don't have the issue here in rural Nevada.
We don't at this point, and probably won't in my lifetime. But you never know. What it's done is it's opened the door by allowing them in to hammer women's scholarships, all sorts of stuff. And yes, we have had it. Not in UNR, but in, I think, Truckee and some places like that have had those issues. And I don't, okay, so we don't have it in Nevada yet, but that doesn't mean it won't come.
So you've got a bill, and do you think, but your bill would not open up the Constitution, because that's what voters are being asked to do, is to open the Constitution. Do you think that the Constitution should be amended for this issue?
I think Title IX takes care of it. And to open the Constitution is a big reach in my mind. The governor's not going to like me saying that, but I don't think we need to go there to do that. Now, if he does, he's got a team that's a lot smarter than I am, so they can do what they want to do. And I've told them when they've asked me, I said, I'm going to do what I want to do with the bill. I'm going to keep it running. And what are they going to do about it? Fire me?
Only the voters can do that, Bert,
Only
as you
the
well
voters
know.
can do that.
I want to make sure we have the time to talk about other legislation that you're working on, that you're looking forward to.
Well, at this point, of course, we'll work on the airport stuff again. That seems to run into a wall every time we turn around. But just as an aside, I'm an alternate on the interim finance committee, and the person that's the lead on the committee decided they didn't want to go to Vegas next week. But I didn't know about it until 2 days ago. Well, no, it was yesterday. And they want me to go to Vegas. They demanded everybody on the committee come to Vegas instead of one in Reno and one in Vegas and or online. So I did this research and everything. Do you know what it's going to cost me to fly to Vegas and back? Over $1,000. So guess what? And in 3 days out of my life it'll be an all-day meeting down there for sure in interim finance. I'm not doing it. I just won't do it. And if it were $500, like it is from Reno to Vegas, that's still too much. But at least that, and guaranteed, I don't have to pay the $1,000 the taxpayers do. So how do we get that balance in Elko? I mean, we want more flights. We need more flights. How do we get the balance so you can afford to fly? If Lee and I flew down together to go to that meeting, we're talking $2,000. Somewhere in the process, and believe me, it takes me less time to drive there than I would have flown.
I think you've just really encapsulated the frustration that a lot of people feel. And all that we can do in the city of Elko is just encourage people, to try to fly, to keep flying, to keep propping up the flights, and to keep checking. But honestly, you've got a deadline, and so that flight is not going to be cheaper. You're not going to be able to look for flights for your vacation for a month to get the cheaper flights.
And I don't mean that to sound like I don't want the flights, and I'm negative about it. It's just we haven't been able to streamline the process enough, or to make, and I keep saying the word process, but that's what it is. We don't have the ability to get a multiple flight service in here so we can compete.
And wouldn't that make a huge difference, Bert, if people that don't understand mining, for example, instead of just trying to take our revenue, and they think that gold being above $5,000 an ounce means we're all swimming in money out here, that they could actually get on a plane from Las Vegas and fly within their own state to Elko.
That would be a wonderful thing. And fly up here for the day and fly home at night.
Exactly. And just as people want to do here, to participate in government, be able to fly to Reno and go to Carson City.
It would be a wonderful project. And when I was going up through the realtor organization, I could leave here in the morning at 7, I think it was, or 9, or 1, or 3, and I could get into Reno in plenty of time to get to Carson if I wanted to, or go to a meeting in Reno, come back at, say, 1, 4, or 7 at night. I mean, it was simple. Yes, it was a 19-place plane, but there was very seldom that it was very full. It was full enough. Then we went to 30-place planes, and that was okay. But then they started flying this connecting route out of Salt Lake, and they'd have 2 or 3 seats available through, and the poor people getting on in Salt Lake were angry because they had to land in Elko first, a 2-hour flight, instead of an hour and 10 minutes out of Salt Lake to Reno. Mm-hmm. So we've regressed.
A lot of changes, and we do have to remember that it was the late Senator Harry Reid. We had subsidized flights, and so you could fly from Elko to Vegas. You'd have to stop in Ely, same thing, maybe get frustrated, but we could fly all over the state.
There.
Yeah. But those days are over.
Without leaving the state of Nevada.
Yeah.
There was one other thing you brought up, the $5,000 an ounce gold, that we should look like we're making money, and I want to make sure that everybody understands it's $5,000 an ounce, all right. But to get that ounce of gold out of the ground, those mines are spending billions of dollars. So yes, they're making some money today, and yes, it probably looks pretty good. But look at your stocks on those mining companies. They haven't been skyrocketing because their costs keep going up. They're all in the same boat we are. The price of fuel, everything else. Although fuel went down pretty good for a little while, but in a week's time, from Elko to Reno, every place I went had gone up 10, 12 cents a gallon in a week. So we're still fighting that. But I want to make sure that everybody, especially those who don't live in Elko, understand that, yes, they're making money, but yes, they're spending money to make that money. No matter how old a gold mine is, you're still having all the processes that go. You just don't have to buy the land anymore.
A lot of changes, obviously, things on the horizon that could change in a day, a week. It could change.
Yeah, overnight.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Well, Bert, did we get to all the topics you were hoping to?
We did, but let me tell you one more thing that's
Please
coming
do.
Up, that I know about anyway, and maybe it's going to come to fruition, that there's a group that wants to put a racetrack in Wendover, horse race.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and they're quite a ways down the line with it. I mean, I've had a lot of input from them, and I will be drafting a bill to help them do what they need to do over there to get it in. There was a gentleman out of Pahrump that wanted to do it down there, my first session, and I don't know where he went. He went away. He's now a county commissioner, but he didn't have the money to do it, I guess. These folks seem to say they do. They've already bought an arena. They've bought a lot of stuff. They're going to move an arena from South Jordan, Utah over there. So they seem to be online. So that could be a real positive for the eastern part of the state or the county. So there's a couple little things like that. And there's some other legislation out there that there's going to be water bills. There's going to be, I had a bill on banning AI in voting last session. Didn't go anywhere. It wasn't my bill, but I co-sponsored it. Oh, and we got to always make sure that everybody understands that I got the pecan punch bill passed.
How could we forget?
And that reminds me, single issue bills. I have been approached by now 5th graders out of Spring Creek Elementary to make the elderberry the state fruit. So that one's progressing too. And when I first heard it, I thought, oh man, no good deed goes unpunished. But these kids are enthusiastic, energetic, and the kids are using me instead of me using kids to get a bill passed. So we're going forward with that, and that's going to be a fun one.
And don't underestimate how much students learn from this and the process, and then they become engaged, and then they, in turn, maybe run for office. They at least become voters. I mean, this is so, thanks to the teacher who is leading that effort. And I love elderberry jam. That sounds like a cool thing, Bert.
I think it's going to be great. Also, I was able to participate in the Nevada Youth Legislature process in January. More of a they call it a meet and greet, but what it was is the students that were in the process came and they were trying to learn socialization skills. And I've never seen high school kids as nervous as they were. With just two legislators showed up for this meeting, myself and one other guy, freshman out of Douglas County. The kids were great. I mean, it was a wonderful time, and their enthusiasm, once they got over being nervous, was tremendous. And because I've done what I have and didn't go through political science degrees and all that to get into government, one could say, well, I'm amazed. Assemblyman Gurr was able to do this without all that. So he showed us there's another avenue to get involved in politics. So it was a great time.
Oh, Bert, I can see your joy. I wish listeners could too. I felt the same way. I was watching council on Tuesday online, and the Hope Squad, our local students, showed up for a proclamation, and the mayor recognized them in the council. And I was just filled with pride and joy for their love and care for each other, and it gave me a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah.
With
Well,
the Hope
and
Squad.
I think rural Nevada has a lot of that. That's what's so fun representing it. And before I run you out of time, part of this job is not, the biggest part of this job is not being in Carson City for 4 months. That's the, believe it or not, easiest part of this job. Yes, you have a lot of grind and mental work and everything else, but the most rewarding and best part is constituent services and how you can help people.
Reach out to Bert Gurr. The best way to find you is?
My cell phone number is 775-778-5138. If I don't pick it up, it's because I probably don't recognize your number. Leave me a message. I'll call you back.
Sounds good, Bert. Thank you for your time today. We'll check in again probably after filing ends, and then see how it's going, okay?
I'll be here.
We'll have more to talk about.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Bert Gurr, our guest today. He is our local lawmaker, Assemblyman in District 33, and he is seeking his third 2-year term in office.